right. I think she foreign. I think she foreign. Got passports. What's your nationality? I wonder if there's more of you. She's got my attention. They're going to be a lot different than the girls um, here in Colombia. Now, I think one thing that a lot of guys have to understand, and when it comes to love and dating abroad, right? A lot of these women are in survival mode. Um, if it's not, one thing that I've recently learned is that regardless of how good the girls look, regardless of what type of iPhone she has, a lot of these girls just do not have money. They like to portray like they have money, or they're pretending like they don't have money because they want to keep their money and they want to spend your money. But there's been times where I'll invite girls out to different events that I do, and I'm like, hey, it's 30 mil pesos to go to this fancy restaurant to have dinner and do the whole event. And they're like, oh, I would love to go, but I don't have 30 mil. I'm like, 30 mil, that's a menu del dia. That's like $6 or $7. It's something super, super cheap. A lot of girls are like, oh, I don't got it. Like I said, it could be a front. It could be they just don't want to spend their money and they want you to spend your money. A lot of times that's what it is. But for the reality for a lot of girls is that they're broke. And what I'm getting at here is that a lot of guys are coming overseas and they're expecting, love, right? But the unfortunate part is for a lot of these girls, love don't pay the bills. Love isn't going to put food in the refrigerator. It's not going to, pay their phone bill, whatever else. So the unfortunate part is that a lot of these women abroad are looking at this more like a business. They're, definitely looking at it more transactional than the guys that they may be, dealing with.
They don't go out hurting people and robbing people and drugging people and risking people's lives. And this whole Colombia situation, it just bothered me to my core. By the third year of living in Colombia, I hated it there. I hated being there, and it's probably my fault. I should have left after the second year. But I just gone through the renewal process on my visa, and I was like, you know what? Let me give it a little bit more. Let me give it a little bit more time. And it was a mistake. It really was a mistake. I wish I felt differently about Colombia. I wish one day I could come back to Colombia and kind of like fix that broken heart that I have. I had some good times. I met some great people. But the constant robbing, stealing, worrying about my safety, and never being able to truly make friends, it really ruined it for me. I know countless gringos that meet someone nice that's Colombian, and they're like, hey, you know what? I'd like to, I like this guy. This would be a cool friend. And you'll take them out for a beer, and at one, like, hey man, let's get a beer sometime. And then we go out for a beer. And I know that I make more money, so I'll pay for the beer. No problem, right? The person might not even expect it, but I'll offer. The next morning I get a text message. My grandmother has cancer for a 15th time. Or they'll send you like an empty refrigerator photo. I don't have any food for my family. Can I borrow? And I think to myself, where did I go wrong? Have I made mistakes in Colombia? Probably. But at some point, I really hoped that people would do better.
So I think here in Colombia, the main reasons why people tend to leave, and these are just off the top of my head from other videos I've seen, from people I've talked to, these tend to be the most common reasons why people leave. So one of the first ones is going to be safety. Somebody gets robbed, they get scoped or something like that, and they decide, all right, Colombia is no longer for me. I'm out. The second reason is finding a sense of community. I think just like it's going to take you a lot of time to find a good woman here, not just in Medellin, but in Colombia in general. It's the same thing it's going to take you to find a good group of Colombian locals, whether it's females or males. Now, doing these events, I've met a lot of cool girls that, I would say are friends. We go out, we hang out. They're not one of them have ever asked me for money. On the contrary, they have some events and things that they come out and they can do for free, but there's events that they come out and pay for. Now, in my opinion, I've had girls who are like entitled and just like, oh, well, I'm a girl. I shouldn't have to pay to go out to go to whatever event. I should be able to just go. And I have a lot of girls who, majority of the girls who are like, hey, cool, whatever. It's 30 mil pesos. I want to come. I could pay that. Those are more of the girls that I've noticed and had the opportunity to meet that would seem, or at least seem like I said, you never know what other BS that they may have going on. Um, Outside of a friendship, once you try to pursue them romantically. But those have been some of the most coolest girls that I've been like, all right, cool. I could see them potentially as being like dating material versus the girls who just come and they're like, oh, you got to pay something. It should be free. But getting back to my point here, let me, bring this back around. Just like it takes a lot of time to find a good girl here, it takes a lot of time to find good male friends or female friends, both. It takes time. Are you going to get girls and guys to ask you for money? Sure, but that's not everybody. I know quite a few Colombians that have businesses and stuff like that. And I think that's the thing is if you're trying to make friends with people who don't have either a business or a great job or something like that, then yeah, obviously they're going to be more in a place of need and they're going to ask. It happened to me. And the first time it happened to me, it annoyed the shit out of me. I essentially, I had a barber that I was going to on El Poblado Ave when I used to live closer there. And one day I went in and, he was cutting my hair and we're talking and he's like, it, it's unfortunate, but, my motorcycle, my moto got stolen. So I'm like, yeah, that sucks. Sorry to hear that. You know, hopefully they find it. Did you do a police report? Asking all the basic small stuff, questions and all that. Trying to it's small talk. I'm just trying to get my hair cut here. So after my haircut, I'm like, all right, I feel bad. I'm like, obviously shit sucks. So I pay for the haircut and then I tip him 100 mil pesos. That's beyond more than enough than what you should tip. A normal tip for a Colombian would be like 5 mil pesos, 10 mil pesos, something like that. But 100 mil pesos is like super OD on, tipping somebody. So I leave. Not too long after, I get a text from my barber. Hey, do you think you can do me a favor and can you lend me 150 mil pesos? I'm like, bro, what do you mean? I just tipped you 100 mil pesos. I didn't have to do that. But I told him, I said, no, I don't have it or whatever. I can't remember what I said at the time. So he then messaged me back and was like, oh, don't worry about it. I found somebody who will loan it to me. I'm like, you don't know me. I'm just your client. Now, granted, I do come to you and we talk a little bit, but I think this was maybe like my third week getting a haircut from him or something like that. And, he's asking me for money. Since then, the only people I've asked me for money have been girls. And that has been actually maybe over a year or more since I've had that happen. But, I think also too, the longer you're here and when people talk to you, like my Spanish was way worse back then. Also, I didn't know as much about Medellin or Colombia in general. And I think now when people, when they ask like, how long have you been here, they see that you can at least be conversational in Spanish. And once you're like, oh yeah, I've been here for 3 years or 2 years or whatever, I don't know if that's a deterrent for them to be like, oh, okay, he's been here for a while, I'm not going to be able to just ask him for money. I don't know, but it's definitely it's very surprising what Colombians choose to, as they say, como, I mean, how do they say it? Like tango pena. It's like essentially like I have shame. You'll hear that a lot, and it never ceases to amaze me what they choose to have shame for and what they don't choose to have shame for. Like, they may have shame to say no to somebody for something, but they can turn around and then ask you for money. So, it's something that does happen here is people asking for money. But getting back to what I was talking about, this is one of the reasons why people leave, is because it can be hard to essentially kind of get like a social circle and like a social group. Because if you're only making friends with expats, a lot of them are coming in, they're going out. Maybe they're here for 6 months, maybe they're here for a year. So you got to try to learn to make friends with Colombians. And I've done this by just trying to talk to random people, situational openers, whether it's a guy or a girl, just being, like for example, a couple Colombian friends I have now, surprisingly, they come from good families and they speak English. But this was during the Burgermeister festival that was here. They were we were all at this in line, and they actually had a camera. And since I do photography, I was like, oh hey, what camera is that? Obviously in Spanish, and they could tell I was a foreigner. And they actually spoke really good English. And we start talking about the camera, and later it was like, oh, I was like, hey, let's go out to drink something or whatever. So it really just depends on you, but you're gonna have to filter out the beggars, just like you do with the women. Hey guys, if you enjoy content like this, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, if you are planning on coming to Medellin, Colombia, you can book a consultation with me. My information will be in the description below.